Hey everybody, I'm Clifford Stumby, the Pop Song Professor, and welcome to my channel where we make English class awesome by talking about song lyrics. And today we're talking about Ode to Sleep by 21 Pilots. But before we get into my explanation, I asked you guys to give me your thoughts on it. Jenna Gates says, I was scared, but then I liked it. And to be fair, this song can be very intimidating with the level of depth that you have to think in to be able to understand it or to get something out of it. Phantom says, more like an ode to bopping, which I would agree with if I knew what bopping meant. Be More Chili Fries says Tyler metaphorically slut shames himself. Vivian calls it a Christian song with whore in the lyrics. You guys are really fixated by that word, aren't you? Say Bear Plays calls it a JoJo Siwa diss track. Yeah, okay, I could see that. And Zozia calls it the best rap Christian depression insomnia screamo song ever, with which I would have to agree. But let's take a look at a slightly more serious comment. This is from One Man Band, and calls it very bipolar and makes a very excellent point that a lot of things in here are contrasting, going back and forth between two opposites. So there's the staying awake versus the ripping my heart apart. Instead of letting the dark, showing an inner struggle between sleeping and facing demons, or staying awake and facing those demons in real life. And there's basically, it comes down to what 21 Pilots was built on, this idea of choice, the opportunity to make the right or the wrong choice. Look up the story of how they came across the name. That's what the band is all about. Now we'll go ahead and end on this comment from Finn Dreamer, who I think has it better than anybody. It just says, confusing. Thankfully, it won't be confusing for you guys in the next couple of minutes because I'm going to explain the song to you exactly. Before we go too deep into this, you have to realize though that there's this one piece of imagery that is so central to the composition of Vessel, which is where Ode to Sleep is from. You cannot understand the song without understanding the contrast between night and day, and that is a moon, not a banana, okay? But basically throughout Vessel, we see this story unfold where Tyler wakes up in the morning, he's fine and dandy like an Ode to Sleep, and then, everything's great and happy, but as the night comes along, darker thoughts, whatever that means for him on a given day, start to come to him, and he has to deal with those, and he finds it difficult to sleep, and the nighttime is a struggle, it's a war that he, can escape when the daylight comes. In verse 1, we hear, I wake up fine and dandy, but then by the time I find it handy to rip my heart apart and start planning my crash landing, aka going to bed, I go up to the ceiling, and I feel my soul start leaving, and that's him, laying there, looking at the ceiling as he's trying to go to sleep and is not able to sleep. And at the end of the stanza, we hear, I don't want to be the one who has the sun's blood on my hands, I'll tell the moon. And there I think he's talking about how he wants to keep the good of the day going instead of ending it. The pre-chorus confirms a lot of this. I'll stay awake because the dark's not taking prisoners tonight. Why am I not scared in the morning? I don't hear those voices calling. I must have kicked them out. I must have kicked them out. He's staying awake to fight these thoughts, to think through them, because, when they say the dark's not taking prisoners, not taking prisoners means you're killing the prisoners. So he's staying to fight that, and then he realizes, I won't be scared in the morning. That'll be my reprieve. But as happens on Vessel, he's gonna have to fight that fight again. Okay, so that's the big number one takeaway from Ode to Sleep. The second thing is the pen, and that's a pen versus the harpoon. And his pen is his harpoon. He says at the end of verse 1, take this weapon forged in darkness. Some see a pen, I see a harpoon. And basically what he's talking about with this song is instead of going to sleep, because the dark's not taking prisoners, he's gonna stay up and fight it. And he's gonna know that next morning that I must have kicked those voices out. So he's talking about kicking those voices out. How does he kick the voices out? He does it by writing. His pen is his harpoon, and you might recognize that metaphor more easily as his sword. And it's a fight he's got to fight, because in the other parts of verse 1 we hear, I'm pleading, please, oh please, on my knees, repeatedly asking, why has it got to be like this? Is this living free? This life doesn't feel good. That mental attack or spiritual attack, whatever it is in that case for him, is not good. It's not a life he wants to live, and so he decides to fight back with his harpoon. The third main point of the song is when he asks the demons why they are wanting to use him, and I think he is talking to the demons in this song. So we're gonna draw some little demon eyes. Yeah, them some real evil demons. But he says in the chorus, but I'll tell him, why won't you let me go? Do I threaten all your plans? I'm insignificant. Please tell him you have no plans for me. I will set my soul on fire. What have I become? I'll tell him. And essentially, it sounds like he's asking the thoughts or the personal demons or the actual demons, like, hey, why me? Why do I need to suffer like this? And it sounds like when he says, please tell him you have no plans for me, it seems like he's like asking that of God, like, God, tell the demons that it's not worth it to torture me like this, to torment me, because, they're not really avoiding any big problems. Well, it turns out the joke's on Tyler, because incidentally, just by releasing this song and others like it, it's helped a lot of people. Point number 4, there is an accounting called of him that he anticipates. We look at verse 2. We hear on the eve of a day that's forgotten and fake, as the trees they await and clouds anticipate the start of a day when we put on our face a mask that portrays that we don't need grace. Now, there's no clear explanation to what this day represents necessarily. Is it, the rapture when everybody will be called to account for what they've done? Is it just everyday life and something that we have to do each and every day? But what's really important here is that he is being called to account, and he's putting on this mask that portrays that we don't need grace, like we don't need forgiveness, like, yeah, I've got it together, it's all good. And we play this pretend game where we pretend like we know everything we need to know and we're as good as we ever need to be. But then he admits, I'm not free. I asked forgiveness 3 times, same amount that I denied. I 3-time MVP'd this crime. And this is basically coming down to the central sin, basically, which is pride or a denying of God, saying, I don't know who God is, or I don't need God. And he's saying, I've done this 3 times, and that's obviously a metaphor and a reference to the Bible when Simon Peter denied having known Jesus when he was asked, because it was dangerous and people might know who he was and he could get in trouble too. And Tyler's basically saying, yeah, that's me in some ways. So that accounting is called of him, that opportunity, he goes in there saying like, I don't need grace. And then he admits like, yeah, okay, I screwed up. He's failed that test. Now the bigger answer to the problem here and the question is not necessarily given. This song is focused on the minor themes, the negative themes, the sad themes, the themes of something missing or something being lost. And there has to be songs like that, just like there have to be songs that go and talk about the positive things, the victories, the successes, the right fits, the salvation, whatever. But I will leave you guys with the 5th thing, and that's what the heck is going on with this mention of a whore here. Because one of the ways that he feels like he's denied God, who he's talking to here, he says, I'm afraid to tell you who I adore. And that's him talking to us and saying, I'm afraid to say that it is God that, I adore, that I am a Christian, essentially. Won't tell you who I'm singing towards. Metaphorically, I'm a whore, and that's denial number 4. He's counting him not telling us that it's God as a denial, and so he's kind of referencing his music in general, because after no fun intended, he really doesn't mention God directly, or he'll talk to God directly, but he, keeps it under wraps, kind of. And so when he says, I'm a whore, he's basically saying that he's selling out his musical abilities or just his life for the sake of something other than what he should be giving it towards. To put it crassly, but I think accurately, he's saying that he's whoring out who he is as a person to something other than that which he thinks he should be doing. And I'm not really sure how I would draw out that whole point there, so I'll probably just leave that one alone. But yeah, guys, that's Ode to Sleep by 21 Pilots. Thanks so much for watching. If you want to check out another 21 Pilots video by me, there is a question I have. Are the fans the problem? The answer may surprise you. And then here are some theories and predictions about what the next 21 Pilots album is gonna be like, and if I'm right, it's gonna be awesome. And I'm right like at least 1/3 of the time, so that's gotta count for something. Thanks for watching, guys. Talk to you later.